Hi, I'm Riley.
And I'm Ryder. And this is my dad's show.
Hey everybody, it's Casey Jacox with the Quarterback Dadcast. I want to say thanks to all of our listeners, thanks to all of our sponsors for all your support. We are continuing to enjoy this journey together, inspiring dads, but I want to take a minute now to talk about Acme Homes. You've heard me talk about them before, but I'm going to talk about them again. Bob Cumming, former college teammate, amazing leader, amazing home builder. They continue to take so much pride in the work they do, the craftsmanship, the attention to detail. Whether you're looking for a home up in Monroe, up in Sultan, up in Wenatchee, this is where they're doing their amazing things. So many people during the pandemic, as we have the ability to work from home, have decided to move out of the city to try to find homes where there's more acreage. Well, that's exactly what Bob and team at Acme Homes give you. So check out Valley Vista up in Monroe. Check out Daisy Meadows out in Sultan. And if you want to even go to Eastern Washington, check out Sienna Heights in Wenatchee. They're, again, amazing craftsmanship, amazing floor plans. You can visit them at acmehomeswa.com. And if you're interested in learning specifically about listings or mortgage opportunities, contact Jen at 425-308-8082 or Denise at 425-309-2318. So now, why are we doing a new ad? Because we want to talk about a partnership they have with Portage Bank. Kevin Jensen is one of the great lenders over there. He's the senior vice president. He's going to take care of you. And right now, if you obtain a mortgage through Portage Bank, Bob and team at Acme Homes are going to pay your $500 appraisal fee. I said that right. They're going to pay your $500 appraisal fee by buying a home through them, getting your mortgage through the folks at Portage Bank. So don't wait. Now's the time to contact Jen, contact Denise. Again, Jen's number is 425-308-8082. And again, Denise is at 425-309-2318.
So visit acmehomeswa.com right now to go visit and learn about your next new home.
Well, hey everybody, it's Casey Jacox again with another episode of the Quarterback Dadcast. And as a reminder, we are in season 3. We are recording in March, and every episode in season 3 is given a shout out to my pops, the Mike Jacox, up in heaven. Unfortunately, we lost him on December 29th, 2021, but I know he's in a better spot, and just want to send love to Big Mike and anybody that knew him. Hopefully give him a toast tonight or remember something crazy and funny that he used to do, because that was kind of often. This next guest, much love to my boy, Alex Hine, close friend who I've worked with for years. Don't get to see him as often, but he told me about his neighbor that he said, man, you got to get this guy on your podcast. And I think, unfortunately, his son's probably more famous than the dad, even though the Richmond Spider Alumni Network might disagree. But he's a Salesforce beast. He is a Richmond Spider. He's got 2 kids. We'll learn about them in a second. He lives in a suburb outside of Virginia, in Virginia, called Ashburn. And his name is Rick McSorley. So, Rick, welcome to the Quarterback Dadcast.
Thanks, Casey. It's great to be here. I really appreciate it.
Cool. Well, in true Quarterback Dadcast fashion, we always like to ask our guests, what are you most grateful for as a father today?
It's a pretty easy question. The family that I've raised so far, I have a 26-year-old Trace and my daughter Michaela, and the people that they become, because they're no longer kids, they're actual adults, and to get to hang with them and be around them is the joy of my life and my wife's life. So really proud of how they turned out so far.
Oh, that's like every parent's dream to be able to say that. So kudos to you and your wife for doing whatever you've done. So hopefully we'll learn some nuggets of wisdom out of this conversation. So dads, if you're listening, make sure you hit pause and go get a notebook, because we're gonna learn today. How old's Michaela?
Michaela is 24. She's a second-year law student at University of Maryland.
Wow. Very cool. I'm grateful. So we're in March. This episode will come out in a few months. I'm actually grateful for a few years behind you and kids. I got a 15-year-old, almost 16-year-old, and 13-year-old. When this episode comes out, my son will be 16. But we talk about mindset in our family a lot, and controlling the controllables. And yesterday was his first day of spring golf before they go to district for high school. And the conditions could not have been worse. Like 35-mile-an-hour winds. We had hail, rain. It was just awful. And I told Ryder, so one of my buddies said, when you go get out of the car and you step on the course, just tell yourself, man, I play my best golf in this weather, and just believe it. And because everyone else is going to be talking about how bad it is. And so he goes, all right, I'll try it. And so he did it. And he's a 3 handicap, so he got a decent amount of game, but he went out and shot even in those horrendous conditions. And he came home and told me about it. I was like so proud of him. So it's like seeing the little wins along the way. Obviously, we got some time left before I got, an NFLer and a law school student, but that was some gratitude that I'm feeling for him yesterday.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, you have to believe. That's a huge part of any athlete's psyche, but golf, football, quarterback, what have you, you need to believe that you can do it.
Yep. That's why for people at home that can't see it, and Rick can see, I got a believe sign behind me from Ted Lasso. No. But it's a reminder that I always ask myself, do I believe what I do matters? I ask my kids that. I got it from a mentor of mine named John Kaplan, who he used to ask that question all the time. It's a simple question, but when you really think about it, if you believe what you're doing, it gives you a little bit extra confidence, I find, to stay on the path that we're supposed to be on. Cool. Well, let's step inside the McSorley huddle. I know we got maybe just it's empty nest life right now, but talk about who's in the huddle, the roles they're playing, a little bit about each member of the family.
Yeah, sure. So I've been married. It'll be coming up on 30 years in July of this year to Andrea. She's the mom, and she is the quarterback of the family. She runs it. She owns it. She loves to host. She loves to take care of her family. She loves to cook. And she's a star realtor. So she knocks it out of the park. In fact, for our friend Alex, she worked with him for 5 years to find his home in our neighborhood. And I was lucky enough to have him as a neighbor. So she's in charge. I play a supporting role in a lot of instances. I'm the coach in waiting in a lot of instances. Both was able to coach Trace growing up, and my daughter Michaela in lacrosse and basketball. Basketball, not so successful. Lacrosse, a lot more successful. And football and basketball with Trace. So I enjoyed doing that. Trace is 27 years old, third year in the league, made it through his third year in the NFL, and is hoping to hold on for a few more years as a backup with the Cardinals. And Michaela is our genius, our resident genius. She's the smart one. She keeps us on track. She's also the funny one. So that's kind of the crew we have. We talked a little earlier about, things that I'm proud of. I'm super proud of the relationship that Michaela and Trace have been able to maintain, both as little kids, little partners in crime, as 8 and 5 year olds, kind of her always huddling with her older brother. She followed him to Penn State. So that was a really cool experience as a family. We, both my wife and I went to University of Richmond, which is really small school, 3,000 students, undergrad. Really small school. And then you go to Penn State, which is a huge environment, 40,000+. And we got to experience our college life all over again, but with 2 young adults to go through it. So that was a pretty cool experience for us.
Wow. I'm smiling. I can't wait to get into some of this. So you said something that I have my thoughts. I want to see if we're on the same wavelength or thought process. You talked about Trace and Michaela were close growing up. They're still close to this day, which I think is a testament to you and Andrea. Talk about why, or how did that happen? Do you believe?
They were. Michaela was always a little bit more mature as a child, and Trace was a little bit immature. So their ages kind of combined, and they weren't competing with each other. I don't know if it's boy and girl, or they just weren't on the same wavelength from a competition perspective. So there was never this sibling rivalry between the two. And she got pulled around a lot. She got pulled around to a lot of little league games. She got pulled around to a lot of basketball, football, whatever it was. And she kind of dealt with it. And she was happy-go-lucky, and her friends were his friends, kind of their family friends. So it became a close relationship, both, personally between them, and then with our extended friends and family. She was always a part of it, and they were always a part of it together. And going to our time at Penn State, there were ups and downs, not going to lie. And the hardest thing was a loss that we had early on in his career. It was against University of Pittsburgh, and she was there for him. She showed up at his apartment to kind of keep him confident, keep him happy, and keep him going. So I'm super proud of her for doing that.
That's cool. I mean, you said that memory like it was yesterday, which was obviously it's fresh.
Yeah, the losses hurt. That you never forget. The wins go away, but the losses they tend to stick with you.
I'm 46 years old. I still remember losing to a school called Western Oregon. I played the Division II school at Central Washington, and I never beat them. But I'm over it, Rick. Seriously, it's not that big a deal.
I'm over it. It still stings a little.
Okay, so the reason I ask is like my wife and I, we've ever since our kids were young, I might be an anomaly. I don't know. My personal belief is I think we can kind of control that a little bit. You can kind of guide that, because if we allow my son to treat my daughter like an a-hole, that's a learned behavior, and he can then take that skill set to the friends, to wherever he goes. I'm down with a little bit of sibling rivalry, sibling head, but we just always shut that down, and we didn't allow them to treat them as brother and sister how like bad, because I don't think it doesn't translate to friends. So we always encourage them to treat each other the way they want to be treated, and now they're like super close. It's funny, sometimes they talk like jive together, which is hilarious, like from Airplane, which I don't know why, but it's so funny. Ryder, what used to be a hoop kid, now he's into golf, and my daughter is really into basketball, but they both are so like supportive of each other, and it just warms my heart. And I just hope that we can fast forward 10 years. I'm hoping I'm telling you or someone else like you, but man, I'm so glad that they're still close.
Yeah, it's a huge relief that they're close. My son is now engaged. My daughter's close to his fiance and future wife. So it's a really cool to have that kind of family dynamic. You don't want to lose them.
Mm-mm.
You've had them since they were originated, and you don't want to get that separation. And I'm super happy that they are like they are today.
That's cool. Cool. Well, I want to go back and learn about you. I want to learn, if I can speak English, if I can learn about how you grew up, and talk a little bit about how your parents shaped you into the dad you are today.
Sure. Yeah. So I grew up actually in New York City, Staten Island, and was born and raised there. Both my parents were born there and raised there until I was 17, when my father, who worked for IBM, decided to move us to Florida because he wanted a change of scenery. Big change, but both, the way I describe my dad is he's IBM through and through. White shirt, wingtips, button down, but super supportive, a great dad. I lost him, unfortunately, in 1986. So I was a freshman in college, but he set the standard for how we were going to live. There was always this expectation, I should say my mom too, but this expectation that I was going to go to college, that my family was going to go to college. We were going to get straight A's. We were going to work. He established that work ethic. So as I looked at it, he helped establish the discipline in me. He would wake up every morning and do his exercise routine, his training in the morning. I do that to this day. He would work weekends, nights. He did everything around the house. He did everything on his own. Mm-hmm. He kind of instilled that in us. And he gave me the direction, right? He wasn't overbearing, but he gave me the direction you needed. It's not the first time we're doing it. We're not the first people approaching this. People have done this before, and he would help provide that direction. So that was him. But my mom is actually the hero. Like I said, my dad passed away in 1986. I was a freshman in college. My younger brother was only 11 at the time, and my sister was right in between us. So she kept us all together. It was a time where I could have decided not to go back to college. September of my freshman year in college, I just started at Richmond. I was coming off a knee injury, had a girlfriend back in Florida, and I wanted to come home. And that was no bueno to my mom. Mm-hmm. This is how we're going to do it. And she held us all together during a pretty hard time in her life, and kind of drove that. And to this day, she lives about 2 miles away from me, super awesome. Close. My brother's about 4 miles away from me, super close. So I'm extremely lucky to have that kind of guide and that kind of mentorship, not only from my dad, but my mom, holding this family together. So,
out of curiosity, if you don't mind saying, how did your dad pass away?
Unfortunately, he actually took his own life. He had suffered from depression most of his life. He was only 46 years old. We knew it. But it was away from the family. It wasn't a daily occurrence, I guess I should say. Yeah. But unfortunately, he did take his own life.
I'm sorry, man.
with that, you always actually worry how your children are going to be, right? So my mom's got a line. She's always worried about her saddest child, what's going on. And I think that's true regardless of the position you're in, right? Your kids at school, everybody's happy, but Michaela's got a social issue going on. You worry about that. Trace lost a football game. You hurt for them.
Yeah.
And that's just the nature of being a parent.
Yeah. It seems like you never stop worrying.
No, it doesn't end. It gets more expensive too, just a heads up.
Perfect. Well, I'm learning that this summer. We're going through our first legit AAU basketball experience. So I'll be in your neck of the woods here at the end of April for the Boo Williams AAU tournament for my daughter. So it's going to be a trip me and her take together. So we're really excited about it.
Cool.
Yeah, depression is no joke. I think if you've not been around it, it's hard to understand but there's obviously chemical things that are not always right and get people out of balance. And my dad, unfortunately, dealt with Alzheimer's, dementia. He was bipolar. He had a rap sheet of stuff. Unfortunately, he passed away due to the Alzheimer's and dementia. But yeah, I was super blessed that I was there for his last breath. Very, very surreal. Had some Al Green going on. Didn't know he's into it, but I remember he liked that. And it was just super surreal when it happened, but I'm glad that I was there. So, as you think back, besides the hard work, any other key takeaways that you took from both your parents, that you applied to your kids?
So, yeah, I mean, I talk about hard work, discipline, the loyalty, the sense of humor that even though my dad suffered from depression, he had a sense of humor about it. He kept us engaged. Same with my mom. Those were the things I took from them. And then family, right? So my mom's mom and dad were local. My father's whole family was local. So being close to the family like that was always kind of instilled in us growing up. So that was a big part of it. Unfortunately, we moved away to Florida, and that closeness kind of grew apart, right? My group of cousins and all that, we did grow apart as a result of the move. And then life takes you in different directions as I wound up landing in Virginia, and most of my family's still back up in New York.
Do you ever get back up to New York often to see the family?
Not very often at this point. It's just not the normal stomping grounds anymore.
Yep. No, I hear you. Okay. So you got a daughter in law school.
Yep.
You had a son who's intense athlete, made it to the NFL, still in the NFL. Talk about that journey that you and when did maybe you and your wife know that, hey, we got some talented kids here?
So, you're always expecting or excited, and you always think your kids are super talented. My daughter was a great student and a good athlete, right? She liked it, didn't love it, right? And not until she got into high school when she really got into lacrosse and pursued it with any type of vigor. She was trying to find her way before that. Trace, it was a little more easier. If there was a ball, he was chasing it. It didn't matter what size ball, soccer ball, basketball, baseball, lacrosse ball, football. He loved the ball, and he loved to catch. He loved to run. He was the typical boy. So it was probably when he got into about 7th or 8th grade when a high school coach, seeing him at a camp, said, you know what, he's going to be pretty good. Would he consider, moving your high school location from where we were set to go to another high school location so he could play for him? So that's where I first realized that, Trace had some talent to him, and maybe it would pan out. He played multiple sports, like I said, lacrosse, baseball, basketball. Football was probably inevitable. My younger brother played at Marshall for a couple of years. I played at Richmond for all 5 years, did a redshirt year and then finished up there. So football was always a part of our life. His name, Trace, actually comes from Trace Armstrong. Well, he was a third. We were watching a football game trying to figure out what to call him, and that came across, and sure enough, we wound up naming him, nickname was Trace. So it kind of stuck. But he was always a kid excited about being a part of it. And, at some point, we happen to live in an area in Ashburn. I don't know if Alex talked to you about it. Ashburn is where the Redskins, or the Washington football team, now Commanders, are headquartered. Mm-hmm. So it was around us, right? So you knew neighbors who were Redskins. He met Sean Taylor as a little kid. So he knew what it looked like. and he knew what he thought he was capable of it. And part of that kind of instilled in him some of the belief he has today that he could play at that level and he could compete at that level and go with it. So it was probably, he was pretty talented. I thought he was a good athlete, thought he had a chance to play at some level. We encouraged it. He did some training both with me and with some former Redskins players at the time. And it kind of grew into what it became. What it became was, as a freshman, he wound up starting as a quarterback on this varsity team and won a state championship. And at that point we thought, he's got some potential. Maybe he can make it if he grows. So,
yeah. What, and when did the whole recruiting journey start?
It was a slow process for him. He was, 5'10", 150 pounds as a freshman. We won a state championship. We had some good players on that team. One that was going to go to Stanford, Alex Carter. So we had recruiters here, but nobody was looking at Trace, right? Trace was kind of an anomaly on a pretty good team. And he was the quarterback and kind of rode that. As he developed over time, there were humbling moments in that whole process, right? And kind of keep his confidence going. Why are other kids my age getting offered? Well, there's a number of reasons, and by position, you don't fit the athletic profile that they're looking for. You don't fit the measurables that they're looking for, whatever that might be. But it was to keep him confident and to keep him going on that path. And I had a friend that joked with me, but look, Trace, you're always going to be on scholarship. I'm going to take care of that. You just go play and forget about the rest. And we were at Boston College on a visit with another one of his teammates, right? You would go along, you'd get invited. And at that visit, we were told, hey, Trace, you're not going to be a Division I player. You're not an FBS level player. Your size is going to be a factor here. And that was humbling. And about 6 months later, Boston College was his first offer. He grew a little. He ran a little better than they thought that he could. And he got an offer. And then from there, it kind of took off, mostly as an athlete. He was a defensive back as well as a quarterback. So at his size, at his weight, at his speed, he kind of fit that mode first. And then it played out.
Wow. What, for maybe dads or moms listening right now who have a kid, son or daughter going through that recruiting process at a high level, maybe talk about some lessons learned along the way and what advice would you offer them?
It's the most rewarding experience, and it's also the most humbling experience. Like in life, there's always kind of a pecking order, and if you look out on a football field or on the basketball court or on the tennis, that there are some folks that just catch your eye as being genetically gifted, athletically gifted, whatever it might be. You just have to stay confident enough or stay focused enough as, hey, it only takes one, right, to kind of get you and one to fall in love with you and give you that opportunity. And then it's up to you to take that opportunity and run with it. But it is humbling, and you can't get upset by it. You can't let the kid dwell on it. The kid, your son, your daughter, has to keep playing and having fun playing and competing. And that will ultimately help it play out, because ultimately there's a lot of kids that get to the Division I level, Division II level that never play. Right. And they want to play. So they'll move to another school. You see it now with the transfer portal. People always move. You ultimately want them to play. It's not about being at the biggest school or the highest level school. It's not everybody's going to be at Alabama. It's about finding your fit and then playing, because that's what's most rewarding. In my mind, there was nothing more rewarding than watching Michaela and Trace play their sport and succeed at their sport. Nothing I like better to do. And I'll go to my grave with that. And that's what I'd want to see any parent would want to see do, I think.
Yeah, that's cool. I definitely agree with the kind of that one shot. I mean, sometimes it does take one. I had a pretty significant injury my senior year, which didn't allow me to play. And it was actually the best thing that ever happened to me, Rick, because a kid I beat out my junior year, he was now, fast forward to our senior year, he was supposed to play tight end. We were having a great senior season summer, great fall camp. We had this thing called a jamboree, which is like, practice games. And we were playing against 3 other teams, rolled through them. Last play of the jamboree, I'm fast forwarding the story here because it's about you, not me. But last play of the jamboree, I ended up getting put back in, and I ended up breaking my foot in 4 spots, and my senior year was done. The guy that I actually had surgery 3 hours later. The guy that I beat out my junior year, who's playing tight end, he now has to go play quarterback.
what an amazing lesson. The world goes on. We're all replaceable. It's not about you. And he would go on to set our single season passing yardage record, took us to state playoffs first time in 20 years, and he was named second team All-League quarterback, and I had to just watch. And as a captain, I was the far from a captain. I was so immature and frustrated and hoping he was going to play bad and thinking all these negative thoughts. And thank God something inside of me said, this is not how it's going to go down. And I went to my high school football coach, shout out Marty Osborne if you're listening. And I remember talking to him, saying how embarrassed I was about my thoughts, and I didn't have clarity about this team. And next thing I know, he says, Case, I'm so proud of you. I'm like, why? Because you had the courage to come tell me how you're feeling. And you know this offense is about as good as I do. Why don't you go open the booth and help me call plays? You'd be my offensive coordinator. And it was like this immediate like vacuum sucking all that energy out, and I had clarity. And so like, I think of that story. I think of, John Kitna as a guy I played with. I played quarterback right when he left. And, kid had 17 years in the league.
Yeah.
Had one shot into college. He came to Central, and then he had no NFL spots. The only reason he got a look, Dennis Erickson, the Seahawks coach at the time, our running back was a guy named Jamie Christensen.
Hey everybody, it's Casey Jacox. I want to take a quick break to talk about my friends up at Catch Sitka Seafoods, who continue to be just an amazing loyal sponsor. And for those of you who've tried it, thank you. For those of you who haven't, you're missing out. And now's the time to make sure that you visit CatchSitkaSeafoods.com and get some of those amazing smoked salmon. Get some of that amazing rockfish, blackfish, black cod, salmon, whatever it might be, whatever you like. But what's great about opportunities they have, now's the time to subscribe to a box so that you're going to get that reliable cadence of the best fish directly from the dock to the doorstep. And what's great about Catch Sitka Seafoods, they make it so easy. So those that maybe aren't the best chefs at home, doesn't matter. They're going to give you this beautiful, nice laminated recipe card that tells you exactly how long to cook it, whether you're going to barbecue, you're going to bake, you're going to fry, whatever the way you want to do it, they're going to make it easy. So please visit them today, CatchSitkaSeafoods.com. Sign up for a subscription so that you're going to get the best fish delivered directly to your door. You won't regret it. And just like my daughter Riley says, Dad, I don't even like fish. And she does now because of my friends up at Catch Sitka Seafoods. So with that, let's get right back to today's episode.
Coach Erickson came and watched John during the playoffs and gave him a shot. He was, ended up being like a free agent. He ended up beating Warren Moon out. Next thing you know, he just kind of keeps competing. And 17 years later, he's in the league.
Yeah, it's a pretty incredible story. Yeah, it's one of those things where, I to significant injury, ACL tear, ACL, MCL, PCL tear, my first game of my senior year in high school. Wound up essentially walking on. I wound up going to Richmond on about a $1,200 scholarship to start off with. So yeah, it was a humbling experience, but a great experience for me as well. And I know that feeling because all of a sudden the air is out, and what's going to happen next. So.
But I like to look for those serendipitous moments of adversity, like Tony Bennett, coach out there in Virginia. I think paraphrasing, he said, when he was 16, lost the one, he said, I'm paraphrasing here, he said, like, adversity is life's golden ticket. And when bad stuff's happen, we either can, as dads, say, get in that blame game, which that goes on loop and just creates more negative energy, or we get out of it and we say, there's got to be a reason why. Let's try to find it and use this to get better. And I think if we can do that as dads or moms, if you're listening, I think those are great ways we can teach our kids on ways to deal with adversity, because it's not the first, like we all know. So, does it get old saying you got a son in the NFL yet?
No, it doesn't get old. It's kind of, it's a very cool experience. Again, I go back, it's, you worry about your kids all the time. You want them. The NFL is a week to week league, right?
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. Until you establish yourself and you're trusted and you're a known entity, it is a week to week league. Not everybody's a Cooper Kupp. Not everybody's a Tom Brady. Not everybody's John Kitna in terms of how he was able to take advantage of that. So in those cases, I worry about what's going to happen, but
Sure.
He's accomplished more than I've ever expected, right? In terms of what he was able to do, both in high school, he went to 4 straight state championships, won 3 of them, played both ways full-time his junior and senior year, became, an all-state player in both of those positions, went to college, put up numbers. But, there was a coach, Coach Grobe, he was the head coach at Wake Forest when Trace was on a recruiting trip, and he boiled it down to this, and I do believe this is your ultimate goal. He asked the question of the players, hey, what do you want? What's your goals for next year? And guys did tackles, interceptions, catches, passing touchdowns, and et cetera. He's like, it's to be the best teammate, to be a great teammate. All the other stuff will come to fruition if you're a great teammate. You want to be the guy that your teammates call on. Hey, who's the guy I wanted in the huddle? Who's the guy I want to play? I play pickup basketball to this day with Alex. You want to be the guy that gets picked up. Be a good teammate. Whether it's a role player or the superstar, you want to be that great teammate. Everything else kind of falls into place. And I believe that's how it worked out for Trace. And that's the best advice I could give to any young player. Be a great teammate. Don't be selfish. It's about your team. If you help them win and you help them be better, you're going to be better.
You mentioned Cooper Kupp. I actually know his dad, Craig Kupp. He was a former guest in the Quarterback Dadcast too. So serendipitous moment there. So for a dad at home that says, okay, that I hear you guys, they need to be a great teammate. How would you really describe that? What are some things, some actions that parents can help kids show them what being a great teammate is? Tell me what comes to mind.
It's being there with your team. We have so many opportunities these days to train outside of the team realm, and you could do that. And that's the extra work you could do to kind of make yourself better, to make yourself elite, to take you to that next level. But it doesn't mean you sacrifice your time with the team, right? You have to be there. You have to be part of that team. You have to develop those relationships, because ultimately, and football is a really good example, because football is the ultimate team game. You've got to be in that huddle with them, and they have to know that you are in the trenches with them, that you're willing to go to that extra yard, go that extra mile to sacrifice with the team. And you have to lead by example. You have to show them that you're there to do the work. You're going to do the work with them, and you're going to help them achieve what they want to achieve, right? You have to help them with their accomplishments too, whether it's spotting somebody, helping somebody finish the 12-minute run that you had to do back in the day, or whatever whatever the fitness test is going to be. You have to be there to encourage them and be a part of that. You might have an easy case of it, but you have to be there to help them do that.
Yeah, I love that, because at the end, the one thing guaranteed in sports, it's going to end.
Right.
For everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
and so, you and I both know what that's like. And I think all the lessons we are teaching as parents along the way, whether it's sports, theater, whatever your activity your kid is, there's so many life lessons along the way that if you look for them and you help them see them, this is how we can hopefully help create better human beings. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to start this podcast. And I still can't believe I'm in season 3 of this thing, is making sure that we help dads become better leaders. Because I think having a dad in a home is so important. I've interviewed many single dads who grew up with single moms, and it's amazing the number of dads who had single parents that came out of it a better person, because what they didn't want to experience that. So hopefully there's people getting inspiration from this conversation today. As you think about the journey you and your wife Andrew were on. I've had multiple episodes, Rick, on youth sports, kind of the status of youth sports. It just seems like it's getting crazier and crazier. Expectations on these kids, the trainings, all the things they can do. And talk about how that journey was for you, and what advice would you give to younger dads, maybe who are going through the youth sports journey right now?
Yeah. So I guess there's a couple of things I think about there. So one, I was very fortunate when, I played college football, thought I knew a lot about college football. And one of Trace's baseball coaches decided to recruit Trace to play football and asked me to help him. And I stepped onto the field, and I had no idea how to coach 4th grade football. I clearly was outclassed by these kids. There was no scheme. There was teaching them how to get into their 3-point stance, and just kind of breaking it down inch by inch by inch for them. But there were 2 things that he said, and probably the most important thing was, one, you're not going to coach Trace. It's up to me, because they're going to react differently to me being his dad versus me being his coach, right? Anything that I say is going to appear super critical and super dad-like. So that was one. And 2 was the 24-hour rule. Now, this was a rule for parents to not approach the coach after a game because Johnny didn't catch 10 receptions or whatever. That was part of it. But it was also 24-hour rule between you and your kid. Look, after a game, win or lose, mostly loss. If they lost, you're upset, they're upset. They don't need to hear it in the ride home in the car, right?
Yep.
So don't do that. Now, Trace was also a very smart child, where he would go and ride with mom if we came separately sometimes, because he knew I might have a hard time with that. But that was a rule that I thought was really important, that 24-hour rule. Let it sit, let them come to you and ask you the questions. Hey, what could we have done differently? What did you see? As opposed to, you didn't hustle, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. How'd you drop that pass? All that stuff that can kind of weigh on a kid. The other thing I would say is, our job as parents, I coached them and I coached Michaela and I sat on the sidelines. It's to fill their tank. They're going to get enough feedback from their coaches and parents on the floor in whatever sport they're playing, that they don't need your feedback at that time. They need you to keep them confident that, it's okay to miss a shot. It's okay. You have to fill their tank. So it's hard sometimes. Being an athlete myself, you watch, you see what's happening. You want to correct them, but to back off and fill their tank and have the right coaching moment with them, or teaching moment at that point in time. But it's not on the field. Now, I'm guilty of being that dad every once in a while, right? Can't control it. But it is one of those things that I'd always suggest. If you could be a good parent and cheer and kind of encourage them, do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so true. We've talked about this with other dads before. There's a great article written by a guy named Bruce Brown that he talks about essentially like the way you just talked about, the car ride home. I don't know if you've read it, but they interviewed hundreds of high school, college, pro sports athletes, and they said, "What is the best memory you have?" And then what was the worst memory? And the number one resounding answer was the car ride home. Right, and it's so at times I have to bite my lip at times, where I know, like, if like, let's say my daughter's having a good shooting day and then one day she doesn't, I'm like, dang, what was going on, girl? But it's not like she woke up and said, man, I can't wait to go 0 for 4.
All right.
5.
Yeah.
And I one thing that hit home for me, I can't remember when it was talking about, but imagine if you have a bad day at Salesforce. Imagine you're not typing as fast. You left some crappy voicemails. Your boss got mad at you. And then Andrea is in the front seat like, what is wrong with you? Like, how did you do that? How did you let our family down? Like, you're a much better typer than that. Come on, Rick, let's go. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm joking right now, but like,
no, but that's you're not in the mood for that.
Right.
You know when you've had a bad day. I don't need you piling on, and that's the thing, right? So,
yep.
Yeah, I made the mistake. We were walking out of a game. Trace was a redshirt freshman, had gotten his first playing time in a game. It was a blowout at Penn State, and he let the play clock run down to they got to delay a game. And as we're walking out, and he, did a couple of good things, but I asked him about the delay a game, and man, he bit my head off. He goes, I know. And I know. Like, okay, from that point on, we're not going to ask any questions on this front. Let's keep it going. So, yeah. It's
so easy to do. And I know that, just because everybody, Rick and I, are talking about this doesn't mean we are not perfect at all. We're just saying these are great things to be reminded of. And I think as I get more experience as a dad, I'm better at it now. And one of the things, back to this article that says to say is, man, I love watching you play, watching you compete and you had a rev face. You left it out there. That was awesome. And the article says, like, if the kid, your son or daughter, truly wants that next level, that next coaching, that next thing, they're going to come to you, like you said, and then they're going to ask for, hey, what do you think I did? Or why did you think I do that? And I think if they do that, I think it's important for us to ask more questions. Don't give them the answer. Well, tell me what you think. Why did you think you did that? So you get them talking and prove their critical thinking skills. And I think when you do those things, the first time I tried it, it was like when Ryder with my son was like 9. It was crazy when it happened. I was like, oh my God, it worked. It friggin' worked. He came and asked, and it was so fun and experience. So I still remember that moment like yesterday, and I still try to think about ways to grow as a dad. As you think back of your journey with watching Trace play throughout the Penn State journey, and obviously he was a very well-known guy across the country. Talk about a couple of games that really stand out that was a really proud dad moment for you.
Yeah, I get there were a few of them, and some of them actually are the losses and how he handled that after the game, right? So early on, I mentioned to you that my daughter was there for him after the Pitt game. Pitt is a longtime rival of Penn State. It was the first in a series of four or five games that they were going to play after a long hiatus. We went there and we got all the way back into the game after being down a couple of touchdowns. And Trace played great until that last throw where he threw a poor interception. And he was crushed that he let down his team. But there were two things that stood out to me in that game after it. One, there's a picture of him on the sidelines. The play before, or two plays before he threw that interception, he threw a go route or a corner route that went off the hands of our receiver. And our receiver was distraught that he had dropped that ball because that was a short touchdown, and he was distraught, and he's on the sideline. And then Trace threw the interception late, and he's on the sideline with Deshaun hugging him and literally giving him a kiss on the forehead saying, "It's okay, we got this." And then afterwards, he was being interviewed, and, he did the correct thing, which I'm super proud of him all the time. It was, I let the team down. I made the mistake. I have to play better. And when we won, it was we played great. It was Saquon made a great catch. The receiver ran a great route. He blocked downfield. And that's what you need to do to keep it going. But he was being interviewed, and Tony Dorsett comes walking out and starts cheering, "Hail to Pitt, hail to Pitt, hail to Pitt." And the press was saying, "Well, what do you think about that?" And he said, "So what?" He goes, "You know who that was? Tony Dorsett." Pretty cool. So he kept himself in the mode. Now, I will say right after that, we saw him, and he was extremely disappointed. Tears were shed. And that's when I said, my daughter, we couldn't be there back on campus with him that night, but my daughter could be, and she was there for him. So that impacted him. And then there was, we had the Big Ten championship win where he literally, that was probably the greatest night in terms of how he performed under pressure, under adversity, and kind of came through for the team. We had guys make plays all over the place that night, but Trace literally, and TJ Watt nailed him on the second play from scrimmage on a read option play where Trace didn't even have the ball, and Trace got knocked down, got back up. Later in the game, got sacked, fumble. TJ Watt nearly ripped his head off, but he kept coming back because he was going to win that game, and he believed. And Coach Moorhead, his offensive coordinator, who was there for the Big Ten championship year and the following year, he said, the thing about Trace, if you saw him on campus, you would have no idea he's the quarterback of the Penn State football team. And in State College, that's a big deal. 40,000 students. It's a huge fan base. It's a huge stadium. It's everything about it. But when Trace got on the field, he thought he was the best player on the field. And he honestly believed that. And that's where that belief comes in. He was going to keep fighting and keep going. So his ability to kind of stay the course and power through that and not give up. We were down at one point 28-7. But his teammates and he believed they were always within the game. So those are the two games that, after the Pitt game, after the Big Ten championship, and then the last one, it was we played Ohio State his senior year, and he had one of those games for the ages, ran for 170 something yards, threw for 298. We wound up losing late, but it was a 4th and short play where we had the ball back, and he was hot that night. And we did an off-tackle run that lost 4 yards, and we lost the game. Right. We ran right into Chase Young, wound up being a first-round pick in the draft. Me as a dad, I'm like, what are we doing? Kirk Herbstreit is questioning the play call. Why is it not in Trace's hands at that time? And Trace got up on that podium after and was asked that same question. And he said, "Coach saw the play, we saw the crease, and we should have went for it." Right. We went for it, and we called that play, and I know what he was talking about. He didn't get upset. He kind of handled it the way and gave the right lines, and to handle it that way, where I don't know that I was mature enough to handle it that way. And those are the moments that I remember. The wins were great. After the losses, how he carried himself, that's what made the difference to him.
Where do you think, describe where that humility or that maturity comes from, you think?
Partially his sister. She'll cut him quick. He's in football and in a lot of sports, he's a really good athlete, but he's always been that hustle guy, always been a part of the team. And when he played lacrosse, he kind of always understood what it was to be a part of the team and not necessarily the star of the team. So that didn't matter. I mentioned that he played offense and defense in high school. He loved playing defense because it was emotional and it was impactful. And quarterback, you kind of have to, Russell Wilson's family, and I know you have a relationship with them, but his company, they've done a couple of things at Salesforce over the last year, talk about being neutral. And I think that helps Trey stay calm, stay in the moment, and just, not think he's bigger than anything else on that place. Confident, but not, overbearing. So I think that's, I do think from a family standpoint, we're not overbearing. It was never always about you. Hey, Trace, you're the greatest athlete. You just won your third straight state championship in a row as a quarterback. The team did that. So that was kind of the lessons. It was never about you. It was about the team, and you played a role, but you don't get there if those guys don't block. You don't have those opportunities if you don't have the right coaching. It takes a village kind of approach. You've had support your whole life. Be thankful and appreciative and kind of roll with it.
I love that you said that, man. Kudos to you guys and you and Andrew for how you raised and the people around him and his life and your daughter. But one thing I always joke, I said, in all my collegiate football career, I've never completed a pass to myself. Right. I've never blocked for myself. I've never snapped it to myself. So if they think and quarterbacks get way too much glory, at times you'd get way too much negativity, but that's the job of a quarterback. And I love that you brought up, for our friends at Limitless Mind, shout out to them about power of neutral thinking, where, Trevor Moawad, the late Trevor Moawad, rest in peace, Trevor, who talked about, he was Russell's best friend and really mental conditioning coach about mental. And I had an awesome moment with my daughter around neutral thinking that I posted recently. So my daughter's 8th grade team, shout out the old Tahoma Bears. They won the 8th grade middle school state basketball championship. And it was like, when we played this team, that they were, 2 girls were taller, handles, could shoot, could get to the hoop. I was like, oh boy, we might be in trouble. And they freaking just made shots. They rebounded, they out hustled, they effort, they're diving for balls. And after the game, I said, Riley, man, what do you think? Tell me what you think the difference was. How did you guys? And she looks at me. She goes, Dad, I just think we did a better job of staying neutral. I could not believe it. I was like, oh my God, that just happened. So I tagged a post and tagged them all. And they're like, you gotta be kidding me. I'm like, I swear to God, it was amazing. So
that's really cool. I'll tell you something else. So Russell Wilson, we're in Virginia. Russell Wilson went to 4 state championships, and Trace was kind of chasing that goal, right? So we've always been a fan of Russell Wilson. Trace is 6 foot. He wound up getting to 6 foot, but it was always going to be questionable because I'm a 5'10" guy, and my wife is also like 5'5", 5'6". Anyway, long story short is there was an interview, and Russell Wilson talked about his dad's phrase to him was, "Why not you?" And that is the phrase that we used with Trace throughout. Why not you? Added a little, why not now? Why not take it now? So that was, I thought that was really cool. And, like I said, we've been a huge fan, and just so happened, actually within the last 2 weeks, Russell Wilson was doing an interview for Salesforce, and kind of as we kicked off our new fiscal year and talked about staying neutral. So timing was right.
I'm still trying to get used to life with Russell in Denver. So we got to have to, Seattle guys, we're going to have to get used to that one, but new journey. But I'm definitely thankful for the 10 years he gave us. And my son is a diehard Hawks fan. And we were lucky enough to be in New York for the first Super Bowl ever in the Hawks. Oh, dude, it was unbelievable. I still can't believe we were able to go. Okay. This has been awesome. I've loved learning about you. One of the questions I always like asking dads is, all of us human beings, we are flawed. We all have gaps. So from a dad's perspective, one area your dad gave, maybe the dad you are now, maybe if you feel comfortable, talk about an area that your dad game that you're working on to become that better leader of your home. Maybe Rick, I'll lead my witness here. Like for me, I have to be very self-aware on patience. That is my gap. Sometimes as being competitive, I have to remind myself that's their journey, not mine, and really work on patience. So with that said, tell me what comes to mind for you.
It's my fuse. I have a really short fuse, and I have a face that can show where my feelings are. So I'm not a poker player. So, everybody around me reacts to my mood. So if my mood changes and I'm not in a good mood, then I drive the whole thing down a tank, and I need to work on that. Right. I'm somewhat selfish on that front. Like, I like my routine the way it is, and I need to be better at not having my very specific routine. And when it gets messed up, people know about it. And I don't make people around me happy. I don't make myself happy. And I'm often reminded that I need to be better at that. So,
how do you pull yourself out of that when you find yourself going through that?
It's one of those things where I have to say it's not a big deal. And get it out of my head. I go into my head a lot, right? In terms of talking to myself and saying,
self-talk matters.
Okay, calm down. This is not that big of an issue. But it is one of those things where mentally, I don't know whether it's Catholic guilt or whatever it is. It just kind of hones in on me, and I can't let stuff go. I often have to have the last word in. So I have to be better at that.
Yeah. Well, I think half the battle is just creating self-awareness. That's why I like asking that question for dads, because we leave here like it's, at least we'll both be present about it. And you said something too, where I think about like expectation management. Like in my mind sometimes, and I've talked to other dads about this, like what, like let's say for example, your routine gets off. We have to ask ourselves, do you think our mom, our wife, or son or daughter, they purposely woke up and said, man, I can't wait to screw Rick today. This is gonna be awesome. This is gonna be a blast. Right. And so I joke with myself when that happens, and it helps me kind of stay more neutral in the power of limitless minds. But okay, you gave us tons of awesome stuff here. So if we think about like summarizing everything we've talked about today, which is a lot, and we could kind of bring this together for 2 or 3 actionable tasks for dads to leave from this episode saying, man, these are 2 or 3 things I'm going to be focused on today to become that better or ultimate quarterback of my household. Explain what comes to mind.
I think about attitude a lot in terms of having that positive attitude. And again, you go back to a lot of stuff comes from various coaches I've had over time. But his line is Danny Smith. He's a special teams coach with the Steelers. His line was, we're not born winners or losers. We're born choosers. We get to choose how we want our day to go. We have to appreciate, be appreciative, wake up, attack the day. You don't come out with a bad day. You come out with a bad attitude. So you have a choice to have a good attitude that day. You have a choice to make your own decisions. And the other acronym he has is CDC, for choices, decisions, consequences. Choose to have a great day. If you choose to have a bad day, it's going to happen. You're going to have that. You're going to make a poor decision, and there's going to be consequences to it. So just live by that motto about, wake up, appreciate it, know that, be excited to do a back handspring out of bed in the morning. It's not always easy, but if you could fight your way through it, you'll have a good day. So
I love that. That is so good. I'm a big attitude guy too, but I've never heard someone say there's winners or choosers.
Yeah,
that's such a good way to look at it.
Yeah, you're not born a winner or a loser. You're born a chooser.
Oh, I love that. It's so good. And then choices, decisions, consequences. My friend, shout out to Matt Smith, will be on a future episode. I saw him recently. He was a college teammate of mine, and he talked about, I don't know if it was his idea or someone else, but he talked about, imagine we have, 300 days of real work, obviously 365 in the year, but like 100 days. And we have our worst 100, our average 100, and then our elite 100. And I think it's those ones where we're having our bad 100. How do we turn our bad 100 when we're not our best version of ourselves? We're having a bad attitude. We're negative. Our family, we're getting mad at everybody. But how do we stop ourselves to say, nope, I'm not doing that, and then get ourselves at least the average, right? And you made me think of that example that he shared. Okay, it is now time for me to go completely random in CTE brain skills. No sarcasm there. Well, kind of sarcasm, but I swear I got it sometimes from all the hits. And by the way, Trace needs to know the quarterbacks in the 90s. Because you played defense, I have a bet. We took bigger hits than these kids take now. Now Trace, maybe because he's a hard runner, but like the back in the day, I had so many legal hits. I'm like, how is that legal?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I 100% agree with you. In fact, it's funny if you ever go to a college practice these days. When I played, the starting quarterback was protected for the most part, right?
Yep.
There would be some plays that were live. But if you go to around a college campus, say, especially at Penn State with Coach Franklin, if somebody falls around the ankles of any of the quarterbacks, they are going berserk. Coaches yelling at you. So it wasn't until Trace's, his redshirt year, he got redshirted his freshman year, and his sophomore year, I joked with his roommates who were all defensive players at the time. Somebody hit him as he walks down the hallway to go to the bathroom, because he's not going to know what it's like to be hit anymore. You have that, you get that. You train to be as fast as you can and as strong as you can, but it's nothing like getting hit and then getting up.
Yep.
You got to train for being hit. So anyway, yeah, I 100% agree. Now, he took a couple of licks. He definitely took a couple of licks in his time. The TJ Watt one was funny little story. He was out and got picked up by the Arizona Cardinals mid-year this year, and he's out there and he's in the steam room, and one of the safeties walks in and he introduces himself, and they had played against each other at when we were in the Fiesta Bowl. And the safety, I'm forgetting the kid's name, but he had a late hit on Trace where he got up and Trace had gone into a slide a little late, but he took Trace's head off. And it was a couple plays before we really thought Trace was back in, focus again. But he said, I got up and I looked around. I knew I was going to get ruled for targeting on that play. They didn't. So he goes, I'm sorry, that was targeting.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. Okay. Your job is to answer as fast as you can. My job is to try to get a giggle out of you.
Okay.
True or false, Alex Hine is a better basketball player than you?
True.
Dang it. I thought I was going to get a giggle that one. Okay. Tell me your best personal athletic memory from Richmond.
We were playing University of Maine, and I finished that game with 2 interceptions, a big one right at the end to kind of seal the victory. And we only went 1-10 that year, so it was a big play.
There we go. If you were to book a vacation right now, where are you going?
Beach.
Okay. Tell me the last book you read.
The last book I read, Bakari Sellers, My Vanishing Country.
Okay. If I was to go into your phone, what would be the last song I would have heard played?
It would be a Taylor Swift song, and I'm embarrassed by that, but it is what it is.
Hey, you got to stay true to it. I actually I was playing guitar last night randomly. I play like once every 6 months, and I learned how to play the Friends theme song for my daughter, who's huge Friends. If there was to be a book written about your life, tell me the name of the book.
What would be the name of the book? Unbearable.
There you go. And now this book, I love asking this question to guests. If they are going to make a movie out of this bad boy, we're going to win Academy Awards. You get to pick you're the casting director. Tell me who's going to star you.
So if I get to pick, I'm choosing The Rock, hence the head.
Yeah.
But I've been told Ed Harris. So okay. It's not bad. I'll take one or the other. But
both are good choices.
I prefer Rock.
There you go. Describe 2 words that would tell me about your wife.
Beautiful and intelligent.
Okay. Tell me 2 words that would describe your daughter.
Sassy and brilliant. I got to spend the weekend with her. We went to a 76ers game this weekend, floor seats. So it was a really cool experience for me and her. So, but definitely sassy. She handles herself well with 5 other guys, adult men. So
love it. I've seen so many shirts that says, parents, if you have a daughter that's sassy, that's called leadership. Let her be sassy.
Yeah, she's cutting. She'll cut right at you like a spider monkey.
That means she's probably gonna be a good lawyer.
I think so. I think she's got a career there. So
there we go. All right, the lightning round's over. If people want to learn more about what you're up to, life at Salesforce or whatever thing you might be got going on, what would be the best way they can connect with you?
So LinkedIn is kind of the normal professional route, but I am on Twitter at Spiders25, SPYDERS 25.
Okay, we'll make sure that is linked in the show notes. Everybody for listening, thank you again for all your support. Thank you so much to our sponsors who've been with us since day one. Much love to Acme Homes and my friends at Catch Sitka Seafoods. Rick, I can't thank enough for your time. I know it's late on the East Coast. It's been great spending time with you, learning more about you and your family. And even though the only Cardinal I'm going to root for is Trace.
but I'm a Seahawks fan, so I gotta cheer for the other 51. I mean, cheer against the other 51, but I'll cheer for him.
Awesome. Hey, this has been great, Casey. I really appreciate the time and some of the feedback and candor you gave me in terms of what you've gone through and how you've raised your kids. I mean, it's always an experience, and it goes way too fast. I miss the 14, 16-year-old Trace and Kayla. I miss the 3 and 1-year-old Trace and Michaela. But there's nothing better than what I have today. So enjoy it and keep on enjoying it.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate your time. Have a great night.
You too. Thanks.
Well, that was an absolute blast talking to Rick. Thank you so much for your time. I want to say thanks also to Alex Hine, a former Quarterback Dadcast guest, friend of mine, former colleague. He's now executive at Gridiron IT, a staffing firm in Virginia. Thank you, buddy, so much for making this happen. So much wisdom that we learned from Rick, and I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If it has impacted you, please share it with another dad. If this is the first time listening to this podcast, go back and listen to some other ones. We have some amazing episodes. We've talked to just great dads in all walks of life, all different types of jobs. And I want to say thanks again to Catch Sitka Seafood Foods. And also thank you to Acme Homes for all your support. If you want to buy some of their fish, go visit them now. CATCHSITKAFOODS. CatchSitkaSeafoods.com. Again, thank you for your time and your support, and we'll see you on the next episode of Quarterback Dadcast.